Are you looking to enter a new career? Or maybe looking to advance yourself in the career you're in? At the University of Guam Global Learning and Engagement, here's where you begin. Enrolling in our online career training program can give you the skills and confidence you need to achieve your career goals. Imagine getting hired at a company or organization doing the job that you've always dreamed of. With over 175 programs to choose from, there's plenty of opportunity for you. You'll dive into the fundamentals of in-demand industries such as business, information technology, health and fitness, project management, and many more. You'll have everything you need to successfully advance your career without disrupting your life. You can enroll at any time, so start today and you're on your way to a new career.
They say there are two kinds of people in this world: those who find themselves and those who create themselves. Are you looking for purpose or deciding it for yourself? Will you plunge waiting for someone to catch you, or will you jump and build your wings on the way down? Seek a path or carve a path. Wait for the future or build it. What is a school but a set of walls waiting for greatness? And who are you but someone destined to achieve it? Here, between the street and the jungle, against time and tide, we push and pull just like the currents. Our ocean of dreams will meet the odds ahead and rise above it all.
Half a day, everyone, and thank you for joining us for day 2 of the Weri Advisory Council meetings focusing on the FSM. My name is Amanda, and I am your MC for today's virtual event. At this time, just a few housekeeping reminders. As a reminder, please keep your microphone muted throughout the virtual meeting as a courtesy to all of our speakers today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share it in the chat. Also, we encourage you to change your Zoom name today to your name and your organization so we see where you're coming from today. With that said, it is my pleasure to introduce you to our Weri Director, Dr. John Jensen, for his welcome and introductory remarks.
Thank you, Amanda. I'm a little slow with the mute switch. Well, half a day and good morning, everybody. Welcome to our FSM Advisory Council meeting. We're happy to have, looks like 25 participants on, and the numbers keep climbing. I see a lot of familiar names, and I only wish we were on one of the islands in the FSM at one of those nice hotels and able to have lunch together. But on the other hand, these meetings tend to be well attended, partly because none of us have anywhere else to go. But I'm glad we got this technology, and I'm really glad we've got Amanda and Justine and Daniel and the whole crew from Glee to run this meeting for us and keep their hands on all the switches and keep us moving. So we've got a full agenda here of information to share about ongoing projects. And I just want to thank everybody again for coming and emphasize how important the advisory council meetings are to what we do. It keeps us not only connected with the professional community, but with the public and educators and people who are the stewards of our water resources, the teachers of our young people, and the information that we get from all of you is essential for us to be able to do our jobs, which is to put together a research program, a training and education program, and outreach program that fosters wise stewardship and effective management of our water resources, freshwater resources. And everybody here, of course, understands how essential fresh water is to the functioning of your economy and way of life. And those of us who live in this part of the world who occasionally get hit with a big storm and go without running water in our households for days or weeks at a time, and no better than our colleagues in the States who have never experienced that kind of thing. We don't take it for granted. And the faculty that put together the proposals following these meetings go directly to the list of suggestions that you all give us. And we take this real seriously. So I'm looking forward to our discussion session at the end, and your suggestions on the kind of work that is of greatest value to you. And in this COVID's environment, we're particularly interested in hearing suggestions of things we can do in spite of the limitations on travel and the other restrictions that go with COVID's environment. Hopefully that'll be over by the time we do this next year. But I was hoping it was going to be over by now, but we're all in this together. So thank you for coming, and look forward to a great exchange of information and seeing each other's faces in cyberspace here, at least. And I'll turn the microphone back over to Amanda to move us into the program. Thank you. And
Thanks, Dr. Jensen. At this time, it is my pleasure to introduce us to our Mega Hage Guapan, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero, for her opening remarks.
Buenas Tunhafade. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Water and Environmental Research Institute of the Western Pacific's annual Advisory Council meeting for the Federated States of Micronesia. The University of Guam is dedicated to serving our entire region, and meetings such as this provide Weri with an opportunity to collaborate with Micronesia as a whole. As the Water and Environmental Research Institute of the Western Pacific, Weri is the research institute for the FSM, and we take great pride in Weri's reach throughout the Pacific. These advisory council meetings play an important role in presenting Weri's mission and vision, current status, project updates, and recently accomplished research work. It also provides Weri with the chance to learn more about research interests and concerns throughout the region. To our local and regional partners who are joining us for today's Advisory Council meeting, welcome. While the COVID-19 pandemic has created challenges for us to come together in person, we are grateful to be able to still meet today virtually, ensuring Weri's mission to provide trustworthy and timely research, instruction, and advice to support scientifically informed development and effective management of the freshwater resources of Guam, Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas Islands, and the Federated States of Micronesia continues on. Thank you for being here and supporting Weri's great work. To the faculty, staff, and research students of Weri, kudos for hosting and organizing another great meeting. Thank you for facilitating these meetings that engage our island and regional community in discussions on the freshwater resources of Guam, the CNMI, and the FSM.
Thank you for those words, Governor Lou Leon Guerrero. At this time, I'd also like to recognize the presence of our Senior Vice President and Provost, Dr. Anita Borja Enriquez. From here, I will hand the microphone back over to Dr. John Jensen, who will talk a little bit about what Weri does, who they are, and what they do.
thank you, Amanda. You'll have to be patient with me here while I manipulate the Zoom controls. Thanks, Anthony. Boy, it's great to have this terrific support that I've got from my own staff and Glee here. We're well equipped here. I'd just like to give us a little perspective on Weri's mission and engagement with the region and the activities that we're engaged in here. Let me, I'm not as proficient with Zoom as I am with MS Teams here, so I'm still learning my way around here. This presentation reviews the composition and mission of Weri and summarizes our activities, services, and products. Our faculty covers the whole water cycle and the human use sequence of water from rainwater to wastewater. So we start with a meteorologist who studies the water coming out of the sky. We've got a geographic information specialist who maps the whole process. We've got a surface water hydrologist, a groundwater hydrologist, a water quality person, and a hydrogeologist, which is me. We lost Joe Rouse a couple of years ago, who was our wastewater specialist at the end of the cycle. And then we hope to fill that position here in the next year or so. We're one of only 2 of the national institutes that has our own water quality laboratory, and we're staffing that up now too. Our people are in demand by the rest of the professional community, and so we lost Jennifer Cruz to the GWA laboratory last year, but fortunately we have a equally talented person to step in, and that's Mallory Duenas, who runs our lab now and is a colleague and leader in the water quality business with the rest of the community and the laboratory business. And I've got the world's best administrative staff who takes care of the books and takes care of everything. I'm always amazed but never surprised at the initiative and competence and the great work they do. I like to brag about our research assistants and associates, our graduate students and undergraduate research assistants. These are the people that do the heavy lifting of science, and they do the mundane tasks. I'll say more about that, the stuff that takes hours and hours entering data into spreadsheets and whatnot. But you can't do science without them. And in fact, they're the ones that get to do the fun stuff besides the mundane stuff. And we're really blessed to have the talent and enthusiasm of these young people who are the frontline troops of science. You're going to hear from our faculty and principal investigators here, but you'll also, and if you join us, especially for the Guam Advisory Council meeting, which we have a little longer agenda, you'll hear from some of our graduate students as well. Our mission is trustworthy and timely research, instruction, and advice to support scientifically informed development and effective management of the freshwater resources of Guam, Sanamai, and the FSM, as the governor cited our mission statement for us. And we are passionate about that mission and dedicated to providing the best science that we can to support engineering and management and use of our freshwater resources. Our core values are honest and reliable science, superb instruction and conscientious mentoring, earnest service to the community and university, sincere partnerships with the public and professional agencies, and consultative decision-making and across-the-board teamwork. The first three of those reflect our university mission of research, teaching, and service, and we take great pride in the contribution that we make to the academic program here. I'll say more about that in a minute. But passing on this knowledge, finding new insights and making new discoveries, and then passing on the knowledge is the fundamental mission of a good scientist. And of course, the reason we do science in the first place is to make the world a little bit better place. And it's the community and the university which serves the community that is the vehicle through which we exercise our partnerships. And like I say, we work across the board with each other and with our constituents as a team. To clarify even more what we are, I'd like to point out what we're not. We're not activists. Now, that's not to say that activists don't have their place, and there's times for good activism. But even the activists, especially the activists, need to have good science. And we provide objective science that benefits the debate on both sides by equipping both sides of the debate with the facts. We're not driven by political correctness or fashion. We follow the data, not the funding. And we're not yes men, yes women. We share both the bad news and the good news with our partners and the people we serve. And we're not prima donnas. As I mentioned, we're team players, and we take great pride in our commitment to teamwork. Let me say a little bit about instruction and outreach. We work in partnership with the USGS. We have a program by which they service and download the data from instruments which have been in place since 1982 on the island. The USGS is the gold standard for hydrologic data collection and management, and it provides federal resources that are leveraged with our local expertise. And they provide opportunities for our students to work with them and acquire experience in the field as well. Our research, as the governor mentioned, covers the whole region, and we have people working on at one time or another on just about every island in the region. You're going to hear today about, of course, the work that we're doing in FSM, and depicting here the range of research has extended from paleoclimate work on Guam, which has taken us into caves and study of the natural record of geologic historical record of climate. We work on water quality in the groundwater, wastewater treatment in Yap is one of our recent projects that Dr. Rouse was doing. And you're going to hear about the ones we're doing now, and we're going to invite you to give us some advice on what we can do to keep these projects focused on outcomes that you can use and what we can steer towards next. I want to brag again about our student research assistants and the team that we have in place at any given time. In order to have a team of trained research assistants, you got to train them. And one of Weri's primary activities is our contribution to the environmental science program at the university, the graduate program that awards a master's degree in environmental science and biology, ecology, geoscience, engineering, or management and economics. Weri faculty played a key role in launching this program back in 1994. And we're constitute about a third of the faculty, where we've advised about 2/3 of the theses. We've funded about 40 of the 70 projects that have supported thesis work over the time that the program's been in existence. You wouldn't have research without a graduate program, and you don't have a graduate program without the faculty providing graduate instruction. We also, years ago, our engineering faculty launched a pre-engineering program, which, as you all know, has evolved into the School of Engineering, which was launched in 2016 and is going to be graduating its first group of students at the end of this semester. And we take great pride in our contribution to the development of that program, and we work closely with them and give them great support. We're proud of the legacy of the engineers that include the late Dr. Rouse and the engineers that on the faculty that went before him, Steve Winter, Leroy Heights, and Dr. Kay, who just retired as the founding dean of the School of Engineering. I'll say a little more about our water quality laboratory. They provide services for the EPA, of both US EPA, Guam EPA, Department of Public Health, the Navy, USDA, FSM and CNMI agencies as well. So they're part of our regional mission, and they do a great job, and we're planning on expanding their laboratory. We're going to get a new building here in a couple of years, and it's going to double the lab space. So we're staffing up to not only expand the volume of the services that we offer now, but add new services as well. And like I said, we've got a talented lab manager, and Ms. Duenas, who is leading the way here towards expansion. We were able to get Chris Gooden back to help us out while we're getting staffed up, and we've got great support from the RCUOG and the rest of the university in helping us get the lab expanded. So if you got any quick questions, I can answer those. Otherwise, I'm going to hand it back to Amanda, and you can be able to hear next from our faculty, starting with Dr. Kim. Any questions?
If there's any questions at this time, feel free to either raise your hand on the Zoom and we can go ahead and call on you, or feel free to go ahead and message it in the chat and we can share your questions live with Dr. Jensen. If you don't have any questions right now and do come up with some questions later, please feel free once again to share it in the chat. You can also send it in an email. We'll also be sharing our resource form throughout the meeting. Justine and Daniel will share that in the chat, and you can always put your thoughts and concerns through the chat. But at this time, Dr. Jensen, it doesn't look like we have any questions coming in, but if there's any that come in later, we can definitely share that with you. But no questions right now. So I think it's time to move on to our next presenter, Dr. Weri Kim, who will be presenting on information transfer plan of FSM water quality analysis technique. So with that said, Dr. Kim.
Nice to meet you. My name is Weri Kim. Today, I'm going to introduce a new USGS project titled Information Transfer Plan of FSM Water Quality Analysis Technique. So in this presentation, I will introduce in the following order: US Safe Drinking Water Acts, and about Weri Lab, and Weri Lab expansion plan, and information transfer plan to FSM. Now, before we get into this new research and information transfer project, I'm going to briefly introduce US Drinking Water Acts that we call SDWA. The Safe Drinking Water Act is the federal law that protects public drinking water supplies throughout the nation. So under this act, EPA set standard for drinking water quality. The SDWA applies to the public drinking water systems only at this time. And this act also applies only to public water systems having at least 15 service connections. That is about this law. Two main water quality regulations are controlled under Safe Drinking Water Act. The first one is National Primary Drinking Water Regulation, we usually call NPDWR. And the second one is National Secondary Drinking Water Regulation, we call NSDWR. Now, currently, NPDWR includes total 87 regulated contaminants, and it is legally enforceable. And there are another NSDWR. It contains 15 secondary contaminants. Sometimes we call unregulated contaminants, and it is not really enforceable. And this slide shows the basic procedure of setting up regulated and unregulated contaminants. The first step is to select the contaminant candidate list. The EPA usually updates this list every 4 to 7 years. And second step is to monitor unregulated contaminants. That's what we call the Unregulated Contaminant Monitoring Rule, or we call UCMR. So EPA updates UCMR data every 5 years. And the third step is to review the result of UCMR and existing regulation and some other scientific result. And based on the result of the review, EPA updates the list of unregulated or regulated contaminants and starts to control drinking water quality for public water agency through permitting, monitoring, reporting, and auditing, and sometimes penalty. So yeah, Dr. Jensen briefly mentioned about the Weri labs. So I want to introduce about current Weri lab status and then expansion plan. The Weri lab established in 1980 to assist Weri researchers in focusing on water pollutant related researches. In 2000, we got the Guam EPA certification for commercial water quality analysis services for 3 contaminants. 3 contaminants were total coliform, E. coli, and lead. And in 2001, we got started to offer water quality testing services for local community. And we are expanding this service to some other islands like Saipan and Costa Rica and even Hong Kong. And since then, the Weri lab got 4 more certifications from Guam EPA. This slide shows the history of Guam EPA certifications since 2001. And besides these 3 certificated tests Weri lab offers right now, Weri lab also offers total 29 water quality analysis services. And this slide shows contaminant categories of MPDWR and NSDWR. MPDWR is categorized as total 6, including 87 regulated contaminants. That includes microorganisms, disinfection byproduct, disinfectant, inorganic metals and ions, organics, and nucleoside. And at this time, Weri lab only has the capability of analyzing 8 regulated contaminants. In the case of NSDWR, that include a total 15 contaminants, so Weri lab covers total 7. And this slide shows the list of total 29 water quality services provided by the Weri lab. As I introduced in previous slide, the Weri lab offers the analysis of some microorganisms, inorganic ions, and metals. But we don't have the capability of analyzing disinfectant, disinfection byproduct, organic chemicals, and radionuclide. So although we offer total 29 at this time, as I mentioned before, our Weri lab only covers 8 contaminants in MPDWR contaminant list and 7 in NSDWR contaminant list. So regarding microorganism testing instrument, the Weri lab has an incubator and autoclave. And also regarding inorganic ion analysis, such as nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, and phosphate, we operate a flow injection analyzer. And to analyze inorganic metals, such as copper, zinc, lead, we operate automatic absorption spectrophotometer. So then let's talk about Weri lab expansion plan. In December 2020, USEDA granted UOG to construct the new Weri building, as well as upgrade the Weri lab. The total grant we are receiving is about $5 million. So in the near future, Weri will have a double space of the Weri lab compared to the existing area at the current Weri building. And we are planning to also purchase several more new instruments to expand inorganic analysis capability and offer new organic analysis services. So we are currently in the building design stage. So hopefully we will start construction in 2022, next year. So right now we expect that construction may take about 2 years to complete. And after that, we are planning to transfer all existing instruments to the new Weri building and set up, and also purchase new instrument as well. But even if we have a new building in the near future, new instrument and having new instrument within several years, we expect it will take more time to develop new analysis protocols and also the stabilization of new Weri lab. So at this time, step by step, we will prepare analysis protocols. And because of that, I expect Weri may spend additional 1 to 3 years to achieve our goal. So as you can see in this table, our final goal is to offer total 93 water quality analysis services if we have a new instrument and if we developed all analysis protocols. So as I mentioned before, currently Weri Lab offers only 29 services. That did not include some categories of especially organics. But through this lab upgrade, we expect that we will include additional inorganic analysis and new organic analysis services, up to 50 organic contaminants. So in this lab upgrade period, we are planning to purchase ion chromatography. I highlighted red. So that's we call IC, and inductively coupled plasma mass spectrometer for metals analysis. That's what we call ICP-MS. And gas chromatograph mass spectrometer for organics. That's what we call GC-MS. Okay, then let's talk about the information transfer plan. Yeah, the reason why I introduced a Weri lab expansion plan is because our expansion plan can be very related to information transfer plan. So in last year's FSM ACM meetings, several attendees from FSM raised their water quality analysis issues. So that time, Mr. Bradley Henley, the chief officer at Pompey Utilities Corporation, addressed several issues: the lack of infrastructure for water quality tests, and lack of training opportunities for the water quality analysis, and lack of funding. So we expect that other FSM islands are in the same situation. In addition, we expect that FSM water utility agencies, I guess, they may not comply with the US law, MPDWR or NSDWR. Because of that, I'm pretty sure that this situation may adversely affect FSM residents who drink supplied water. So as I mentioned before, Weri plans to upgrade the lab. So now is the perfect time to discuss information sharing plan. But at this time, frankly speaking, Weri doesn't have any information on water quality test conditions for each FSM's water agencies. So what I'm thinking right now is, as the first step, Weri is going to conduct a survey regarding water quality related issues among FSM islands. So it will include the analysis of the difference between US EPA standard and FSM water quality analysis conditions. And also we want to conduct survey for infrastructure conditions, such as what kind of instrument they have, and also which support or collaboration, such as training, is required. Here is an example template of the survey. Yeah, I haven't prepared anything, but I just want to show what I'm thinking right now. This table shows the mapping table for the water quality analysis, focusing on inorganics. So if where we provide survey document and checklist, and then in collaboration with folks in FSM water agencies or even FSM EPA, they fill out this form and return them to the Weri. In the same way, we can also survey their standard procedures, because a standard procedure is the most important, whether we follow right procedure or the data we have can be certified by EPA. And also what instrument they have at this time and what kind of software or collaboration needed, such as training. So let me show next slide. So this slide shows a mapping table of instrument and the description table about each island's water quality analysis conditions. So we have not started this project. So after hearing FSM's issue last year, I have prepared a proposal and I submitted to USGS 104B project. And then I got grant in just last month. So right now is the time to launch this project. So because of that, I just briefly introduced the rough concept of this project in this presentation. So after this meeting, we want to collect contact information at each island. And after more detailed online discussion, I think we can set up several more online discussion later. Then we are planning to prepare the survey document. And the survey document, then after distribute, we will collect that document. And after that, we will compare each island and even Guam water quality test conditions, and we will set up action item for the following years. If COVID situation is lifted, we can visit the island. I think that is the best way, but unfortunately these days it is not easy. And then if we have travel chance, then we want to conduct on-site survey and interview, but it depends on COVID situation. So in this project, I will work as project leader, and Dr. Chris Yeo will work with me about island visit, survey, and training if need. And Ms. Mallory Duenas, who is Weri lab manager, will assist water quality analysis related advice and provide standard procedure. And Ms. Gemma Peyumo, who is a Weri program coordinator, will manage contact point, the collection of survey document, and the training plan if need. And Mr. Isaac Snively, who is a student RA, will work a lot with me about preparing documentation and data analysis. So that is the project plan. So I look forward to collaborating with the FSM professional in the near future. So thank you. So any question?
At this time, if there are any questions for Dr. Kim, you can share them in the chat. You can also use the raise your hand feature on the Zoom meeting, and we can spotlight you to ask any questions. We do have a couple of questions coming into the chat. The first one coming from Mr. Kin Kanto, representing Chup, who will set up the action items?
Well, yeah. Once we set up the light committee, so for example, each island has water utility corporation. So we will have discussed a lot about the future plan. So that means where we may set up action items, but it should be based on the result of discussion.
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Kim. I also have another question from Mr. Mike Gowell from Guam. Very good presentation, Dr. Kim. Will you coordinate with SPREP for FSM plans?
Yeah, I don't know about what's SPREP. So I think we will have to discuss a lot, because since the COVID situation, I haven't contacted FSM people. So yeah, we will have to set up another meeting later.
Perfect. Thanks, Dr. Kim. It doesn't look like we have any other questions at this time, but as a reminder, if you do have questions, please feel free to share in the chat. If you come up with questions later, we'll definitely pass them along to Dr. Kim. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll also be sharing the resources form where you can fill it out and you can express any concerns or areas of interest in that form that we can spread along to the Weri faculty and staff. With that said, thank you so much, Dr. Kim, for a great presentation.
Thank you.
At this time, we're going to be taking a short break. We're a couple of minutes ahead of schedule. We'll be taking a short break, but please stick around for our break. We'll be playing a video on Weri. Justine, go ahead and take it away with that video.
Hello, my name is Weri Kim. I'm the Weri faculty member and serve as the coordinator of Weri Water Quality Analysis Laboratory. In 1980, the Weri lab was established to assist water quality research. But as demand for water quality analysis increased in the local community, the Weri lab has offered commercial services since 2001. Weri lab is the only water quality analysis lab on Guam, so we try to keep supporting the community's needs, as well as keep enhancing analysis services. This video introduces what we do, how we collaborate with the local community, and what we have planned to expand the lab services. Enjoy watching this video. Thank you.
The Water and Environmental Research Institute of the Western Pacific, also known as Weri, was established at the University of Guam in May 1975. The role of the Institute is to facilitate and conduct high-quality research that addresses water problems and water-related phenomena, train students, teachers, and future water resource professionals, and disseminate research results to the community at large. Consistent with the regional role of the university, the Institute devotes part of its program effort to Western Pacific Islands other than Guam. It is the only research center of its type in this geographic area and endeavors to respond to the unique conditions that exist here. The Institute draws from the varied expertise of its research faculty members, University of Guam faculty, research affiliates from other universities, and local professionals. In 1980, the Weri Water Quality Analysis Lab, also known as the Weri Lab, was established to assist Weri researchers in water pollutant analysis.
My name is Jennifer Cruz, and I'm the laboratory manager of the Water Quality Lab.
My name is Crispina Herrera Tagudin, Lab Tech 3. I started at Weri December 1985.
My name is Mallory Duagius, and I am the chemist at the Weri Water Quality Laboratory.
My name is Lourdes Mofness. I'm a graduate student in the ED program, but I'm also a research assistant too over at the Weri Lab.
The Water Quality Laboratory was first established in 1980 in House 28 of the Dean's Circle, and it moved to the current Weri building in 1990. The laboratory was established to support research for water quality analysis. But in 2000, The lab was certified for the testing of total coliforms and E. coli, as well as lead by Guam EPA. This was to support the lead and copper rule that US EPA had regulated. Since then, no other testing parameters were certified until we hired a chemist in 2016, where now we have the manpower to offer more services as far as certified testing. In 2017, we added certification for the heterotrophic bacteria analysis. This was requested by many of the food establishments who are serving the military bases. And the same year, we added nitrite and nitrates in our certification. The last certification that we obtained was in 2018, which is for copper testing.
I conduct instrumentation analysis as well as conduct microbiological, organic, and inorganic analysis.
I have to go out in the field and collect samples from all the construction sites. New buildings, new residential areas. I have to go out and collect samples for lead and bacterial tests.
Part of my duties is helping making reagents and standards, and also helping analyze the samples we get. So that includes metals analysis and nutrients analysis, in addition to bacteria analysis for the water samples.
Some of the instruments we have in the laboratory are an atomic absorption spectrometer, which is used for lead testing in other metals. And then we also have the flow injection analyzer that we use to analyze nutrients in water, such as nitrates, ammonia, and phosphates. We also have a gas chromatograph, which is set up for the PCB analysis for research purposes. And of course, we have the standard lab equipment, such as the pH meter and tubular meters. In addition to the total coliforms, E. coli, and heterotrophic bacteria, we also analyze enterococcus bacteria, which is used to monitor surface water or recreational waters on Guam. Our customer base consists of construction companies and consulting companies, but we also have food and beverage establishments, hotels, airlines, and other government agencies. We also serve companies and other organizations within the region, such as CNMI and FSM.
Weri officially became the first Regional Water Resources Research Institute in the WRRI program by extending its mission to the Federated States of Micronesia, or FSM, in 1991, and to the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas, or CNMI, in 1997. The designation has opened a broad new spectrum of research and service opportunities for the University of Guam.
Out of the 54 water research institutes in the country, we are one of only 2 that have a water quality laboratory. That's one of the reasons that we are highly rated. In fact, we're one of only 12 institutes that received the top rating of outstanding in the last 5-year review. We've been consistently in the top rated category for the last 25 years.
Weri Lab has really been developed over the years to support academic purposes such as research and student learning. And as more demand for research and study has come to the University of Guam, we've seen investments in the lab increasing. And those investments are tangible investments like equipment and facility and supplies, materials. But it also has brought us expertise. We've been able to hire lots of folks into the lab, those with specialized training in lab services as lab technicians. And we have our academic faculty who, through their research projects, utilize the lab and the resources in it. The community, they may not see that directly right away. We do have a number of businesses who are familiar with the lab and do work closely with the lab when they need tests of water quality done.
With an expanded lab, that includes an expansion of resources, and that's significant to me because as a student, I find it important that resources are available to help educate me and further my experience as a lab and research assistant. So most of all, I think it's significant to the students at UOG in addition to the people of Guam.
The expansion of the laboratory would help create some positions for newly graduates who are looking into environmental compliance, who are interested in laboratory analysis, and open up some positions for undergraduate internships.
It has grown from just supporting research to offering services to the community of Guam and the region. And it still has a lot more potential to grow and benefit more students for internships and also for the local companies who need to send samples off island.
The government and its public services, the public assurance of water quality and water safety, and working with GWA on some of those water quality tests. With the future design plans for a new building for Weri, the lab space will greatly increase, and thereby we'll have the room for that equipment, and we'll also have room for more personnel.
UOG and the whole island are really fortunate to have an asset like our water quality laboratory. Besides supporting research and providing a low-cost, readily accessible service to our clients and customers on the island, it leverages our local talent by providing an opportunity for students to get hands-on experience where they'd never be able to do it otherwise without going off island for it. I'm excited to see it expanding and looking forward to continuing the service that we provide to the island and to the students that train in it. It's one of UOG's crown jewels.
Hi, Dr. Yo. Hi, sorry about that. That's one of the great things about Zoom meetings, right? We're all trying to figure it out. But once again, thank you and welcome back to the Weri Advisory Council meeting day 2. The video you just saw was a short clip that UOG Glee had prepared in collaboration with Weri that highlights some of the great things that Weri has to offer and contributes not just to Guam, but to the region. So we are very grateful to hope to be a part of these Advisory Council meetings and to help Weri showcase their great events. With that said, we'll now move on to the next presentation on the Truth Digital Atlas by Ms. Maria Cartermeyer and Dr. Chris Yo. So from there, Ms. Maria, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Hey, let me 1 second. 1 second. Thank you, Amanda. Hafaday, Mugisin, Rananim, Kasalelia, and Lenwa, everyone. I'd like to present the Digital Atlas of Micronesia today. I'm the co-editor of this atlas and also Weri alumna, so it's really nice to see a lot of familiar names present today. Unfortunately, the editor of this project, Dr. Danko Tabarosi, couldn't join us, so he asked me to present the project. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Chris Yo from Weri, who is our Weri partner in this project, and Snyder Visa from the FSM government, who was instrumental in securing additional funding for us, and both of them are present today. The atlas is available at islandatlas.org, and it's the official source for geospatial data and maps for the FSM. And the atlas is divided into 4 modules, 1 for each island. And we have the main islands and the outer islands, except of course for Kusrai, which only has a main island. And all the main islands have been completed now. And today I'd like to showcase the Chuk module, our latest module in the live demo, but before I'll give a brief background of the atlas. So the purpose is really a one-stop shop for geospatial information of the FSM. It's a support tool for sustainable development, effective management of natural resources, but also infrastructure and education, among others. And important, it's for GIS and non-GIS users alike. And regarding the organization of the atlas, we have GS layers. So they're the fundamental building block. And GS layers are data like streets, for example, that have a spatial component and can be put on a map. And so from these layers, we created static maps that can be found in the map gallery, and dynamic maps that can be found in the interactive map. And so these three components are all the foundation of the website. And the data sources and processing. So the data comes from different sources. The first one is existing data with minor modification. So we extracted like data from global or regional data sets, and sometimes we got them from local government. However, before any acquired data were incorporated into the atlas, the layers were processed to ensure consistency and compatibility throughout the repository. And here are just a few of the processing steps. So aligning features, formatting tables, fixing errors, and adding metadata. The second is existing data with major modifications. And the third is new layers that we created specifically for this atlas. And so the components for the website, we have the island module, so you can browse by island and theme. We have the interactive map, where you can create custom maps, data repository, where you can search and download the files, and the map gallery, where you can browse pre-designed maps. And this is really, I think, a unique feature that you can not only view the data, but you can easily download the data itself and the pre-designed maps in various formats. And you don't need any account to log in order to download. So it's very versatile. Again, what I said, like you can download the data in various formats. And just for the Chuk Atlas, we have over 108 static maps, about 100 GS layer, and that also includes 25 visualizations from the 2010 FSM census data. And so far, the 4 main islands, as I mentioned earlier, have been completed, and next will be the outer islands. And we just got some good news from the FSM government last week that the funding was approved for the outer islands. So we'll be working on that next year. And again, I'd like to thank Snyder Bisa from the Department of Environment, Climate Change and Emergency Management for his support in getting the funding for the outer islands approved. And before the live demo, just some statistics to show the success of the atlas to date. So before last year, we only had the Pohnpei module online, and the traffic was relatively low. But since the launch of the additional modules, this has changed. And so the Pohnpei module has been online for several years now, and you can still see up, like this is for the 2020, the numbers are quite low here. But then the 2021 report shows that we are now getting an average of 700 unique users per month. I just want to repeat that. 700 unique users per month, which is a great leap over like the 30 to 50 average we had prior to that. And so here you can also see unique visitors and number of visitors. So the unique visitors is a very important indicators of how much the website is active. And but also the number of visitors is important since it represents repeated visits, which is also a good indicator. And this next slide just shows over the statistics over the last 30 days. And so we have between 90 and 204 unique visitors per day. So that's these are really good numbers. And here a map of the distribution of our users. So it's quite, global users. You can't see the numbers for Micronesia here, but there are in the breakdown, it does show up. We do have a good portion of local users as well. And just a few weeks ago, I got an email from a student in Spain asking some question about the hydrologic data for some flood modeling project she was working on. So it's just really nice to see that the atlas is actively being used. And another example I just came across recently is a recent report that was published by USGS about the landslides on Pohnpei, and they used one of our pre-designed maps. Here you can see the vegetation in their report. And in the end, I'd like to recognize the partners involved in this project. So we have IVI, it's a nonprofit based in the FSM. who implemented the atlas, while Weri was responsible for like the initiation and management, and also securing the baseline funding through USGS. And additional funding to improve the atlas came from the FSM national government. And yeah, this was needed to develop new data sets and also better interactive mapping and the new website. And in addition, we had a lot of partners that helped provide data for us, and that includes like USDA and ICS, the Chuk State EPA, College of Micronesia, and the Pacific Disaster Center, among other federal agencies like NOAA and other local agencies, so the FSM Department of R&D and FSM Telecom. And now to the live demo. One moment, I'm gonna stop sharing and to reshare. Okay, let's see. Can you see that? Can I get a yes or? Can everybody see the website?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so here's the opening page of the atlas. And I mean, it's called Atlas of Micronesia, but as you probably saw already, it's like, it's really the Federated States of Micronesia right now, but that might change in the future when we add different islands. And so this is the opening page. And if you go to island modules, you have the option of like going to accessing the different islands. So here's Yap, and but we want to look at Chuk. And then here you can see the different themes. So all the layers have been divided into different themes. So we have land, for example. And okay, so on the land, for example, you have imagery, you have coast, topography, soil, geology. And geology is actually a good example. This was a layer that didn't exist before, or not in GIS or digital form. This was based on the old map that we sourced, and we digitized it and included it in the atlas. And then another one, let's look at population. So again, you have municipalities, traditional divisions, and here's a lot of the census data. And for example, when we go into municipalities, and this is the same like setup for all the data. So you have a little map here, and the description, who made the layer, what is the source, and then here you can view the map, view the layer, so the interactive layer, and view the metadata. And here I just preloaded this earlier. 1 second. So here you have the pretty map. So if you have like a report, you want to include that, you can use this as a base map and maybe put your own points of interest on top of that. Then here's an example of the interactive one. So it looks similar, but when you actually click on one of the islands, you get more information like what is in the database. And so when you scroll down, so here is High Island, the type of island, you have the current name, you have the old name, and you also have the Chukis version of it in here. And yeah, this layer was took a long time and many iterations to make sure that all the spellings are correct, and of course the names. And then we have also the regions and subregions. And so this data did not exist before at all. So this is really good to show the value of the atlas. And then you also have the metadata. So when you download the actual GIS data, the metadata is automatically integrated. But if you just want to look at it directly, you can go in here. And again, you find information about the layer, the description, who made it, what was the source. Then here's another example of the population by age and sex. So here's the legend. You have male and female. So you have the population pyramid and the population per municipality in the background. And for example, if you zoom in here, you see a very high portion of like younger people living there. And if you want to find out exactly like what that age bracket is, you can click on it, and then it gives you the name. So these are females from 15 to 19. So these are probably high school students, and assuming that people from the other islands moved to Vancouver High School. And then, yeah, so you can do this for all the different layers. And another example, since we're the Water and Environmental Research Institute, here example of the principal sources of water for drinking and washing. Again, you can click on one of the islands and then you get the whole, all the data that's in the database. And so we use the data provided by the FSM government and converted it into GIS data and to be able to show it on the map, which is so much more powerful than when you just look at all these numbers. But again, if you do want to look at some numbers, you click on one of the areas of interest and then you get the breakdown. Or if you want to get the pretty map or pretty graphical representation, here's an example. And you can see these are really, nice professional maps. And here is like households with access to piped water in the background. And here, these graphs, you can see the water sources, drinking versus washing. And yeah, I found this one really interesting. So there's like one island where there's a lot of spring water, but most of the others actually use household tanks. And yes, it's a lot of really good information included. And then the next part is the interactive map. So here you have all the layers that are in the atlas and you can turn them on and off individually. For example, here, the sunken ships and planes. Again, when you click on it, you get all this information, you get the name of it, what type it is, and the source. And so here, for example, is Dr. Bill Jeffrey. He's actually a UG associate professor in archaeology. And so he provided us a lot of the data, but then we took the data and converted it into, they were just tables, like Excel tables, we converted them into GIS and integrated it. Another example, so yeah, you can create your own maps and can print them here as well. So let's see, infrastructure, you want to know about where all the schools are. And so they're broken down, it's not just school, but you have them into elementary school, colleges. And let's say you want to know where all the people live or where the building footprints are. So you can zoom in. So we digitized all the buildings in here. And then let's turn on the roads as well. So if you want to show a map where all the schools are, you can make that, or anything about vegetation. And we also have conservation areas. And then the last is the data repository. So in here, you can also just sort the data by different themes, for example, land, or if you click on here, let's say conservation. Here you have protected area and area of significance. So you can just check one or all of them and can download them. And then, oh, that wasn't even last. The last one is the gallery. Let me just make this smaller. So here we can, all the maps you can find also in some of the other sections. You have them all together here and can look at them or download them individually. So yeah, that's the end of it. Thank you so much for your attention, and I hope you find the atlas useful and promote it. And if you have any feedback, good or bad, please let us know. And also how you, if you're using it, it's always nice to know the how people find it useful. So thank you very much. Any questions?
At this time, if you have any questions for Ms. Maria, please feel free to share it in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature for Zoom. At this time, we don't have any questions coming in the chat. But if you do come up with any questions for later on, we'll definitely share those with Ms. Maria as well.
Thank you, Amanda. I'll also put my email in here, so if there's any questions, you can also email me later. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ms. Maria. We do have a couple, actually, we do have a question. First, from Dr. Jeffrey, great, wonderful data and maps, and congratulations.
Oh, hi, Bill.
And then we have from Pete, any plans for aerials for the islands to be incorporated into the data repository? This is a great tool.
Yeah. Maybe, so the next one is the outer islands. We might include some of the aerials. We do have satellite imagery available, or at least the links to it. But in the current, like the main modules, we don't have any aerials incorporated into it other than the, other than the satellite imagery. Yeah.
And
Thank
then
you.
from Dr. Jensen, we do have a comment in the chat. Nice presentation, Maria. Good to see you again. And we have another, we actually do have some questions coming in. How will the data be updated through time?
Yeah, so right now it's like a snapshot, and it's like with the maps, it's hard, like they cannot be dynamically updated. There's a lot of work that goes into it to make them that pretty. And so we anticipate, or we hope that in a few years, when we also get like new data sets in, then that we can update the atlas again. But it's the same like with the Guam version we did several years ago, and it's still like heavily used. That we're hoping to do, another update soon. So hopefully in a few years' time, we'll get more funding to do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Maria. And then we do have a couple of other comments. Thanks for the great planning tool from Mr. Mike Gowell, and then from Mr. Kin Kanto representing Chuk. Thank you as well. Oh, we have another question from Travis Faith. Any plans to do other islands in Micronesia?
Yeah, so we have the digital atlas of Guam already that, again, we hope to update. And there's also a lot of work that is being done in the Marshall Islands currently. So we don't have any, a grant right now to do an atlas, but that's also something we'd like to do in the future, and also include Palau and CNMI. Thank you. Great question.
Once again, Ms. Maria, thanks for an amazing presentation and for sharing the website as well. We do have your email in the chat, and I'll just go ahead and reshare that as well, because we've had a couple of questions come in since you shared it. But if there's not any other questions, thank you again, Ms. Maria, for that great presentation. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and do a short transition into Dr. Chris Yo's presentation on FSM Water Edu program. Thanks again, Ms. Maria.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Yo, Assistant Professor at Weri UC. Today, I'd like to give a short talk regarding my ESGS FSM project. Its name is FSM Water Edu, Sustainability of Fresh Water Resources through Education. Because this project just got started as of this month, they have just an introductory presentation so that audience from the FSM can figure out the coming project. Usually, the USGS project had been executed in March, so we could present our results, our research or our educational activities to use those ASICN meetings. However, due to the COVID pandemic condition for the last 1.5 years, we could get just these USGS project started. Water is the most critical element for all living organisms within environment and biological system. As a human society, the management and allocation of water resources have been always considered as one of the most critical factors. Especially, these issues are always challenging in small islands because these islands have extremely limited freshwater resources with a small catchment area. In addition, due to the level of sanitary infrastructures is easily contaminated. Since many regions in Micronesia are made of atoll or other low-lying islands and coastal areas, our region have additional difficulties caused by permeable soil types such as limestone, a very intense rainfall because drought. As we are aware of, each island in the FSM has distinct characteristics. It implies it is so hard to get such general agreement regarding limited water resources. Hence, it is essential to understand about water quality and water quantity, water availability, which types of fresh water resources are available for each state or each island in the FSM. In addition, there is another critical challenges induced by climate change. According to the WHO report, the small Western Pacific Islands, where we are living are most vulnerable to change in the world. Changing in hydraulic cycle brings water security, severe drought, low food production and fission, and so on. This slide shows the overall objective of this project. This is to impart on the people and particularly children and youth of the FSM the benefits of appropriation of their island freshwater resources and understanding of how they are best managed. This project incorporates the development of FSM water education materials and training where participants will learn in power to share with others what they learn. To be honest, this project initially is inspired by Farm Water Kids program. Farm Water Kids was designed to serve 3 stakeholders: students, educators, and farm communities. The goal was to update the educational content and we engaged in training opportunities for students, educators, and operated learning platforms after these school years. And the program emphasizes 3 content ideas. Freshwater is vulnerable natural resource for our island. How our freshwater supply is renewed by water cycle. Last is what youth can do to take responsibility for avoiding pollution and waste of this island freshwater supply. Like this, I wish to make some education program for each island for each year in FSM. So I plan 2 educational programs for children, for youth, and this first section and second section to educators and outreach staff. Of course, as Dr. Kim made the presentation, because of COVID condition, there's high uncertainty to get to FSM Island. So I have local coordinators from Island Research Education Initiative, IREI, Dr. Tamoski. He and I prepared together for this research project, our education project. So he will make a local education program, and Dr. Kim and I will prepare and provide some education program for educators and government agencies. So the reason why I prepared this presentation is to make a collaboration with some local person. Thank you. Do we have any questions? As I mentioned, this is initial steps. So I encourage you give some of your ideas and your needs and share your needs. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yo. At this time, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to share it in the chat.
It's okay, yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Yo. At this time, it doesn't look like we have any questions. However, as a reminder to everybody, there is the water resources issue form. We did share the link earlier, and Justine will share it in the chat again. So please feel free if you have any questions or comments that you might think about later on throughout the ACM Advisory Council meeting, please let us know and we can share it with Dr. Yo at a later time. We also shared the water resource issue form again in the chat should you have any questions. But thanks again, Dr. Yo, for a great presentation. From here, we'll go ahead and transition to Dr. Mark Lander for his presentation on the state of the climate. Thanks again, Dr. Yo.
Okay, here we go. Screen, whiteboard. Uh-oh, why doesn't it show the? Okay, well, here's my cover slide. I regret, too bad we can't go to the islands. We're either on Yap or Chuuk or Pohnpei or Coast Rai at this time of year, but of course we're not. So now we do it by computer, and it's not quite the same. I'm just sort of staring at my computer in my office. But anyway, here's one thing PowerPoint could do. It took my data and stuffed it on a special kind of slide, but here's my my talk. Of course, I've had many projects throughout Micronesia. ENSO Application Center, El Nino Outreach. When El Nino comes, we've gone out all the island groups, Yap, Palau, Guam, Saipan, Chuuk, Pohnpei, Coast Rai, RMI. A few times over the years for ENSO kind of thing. USGS, stream and rainfall monitoring, Pohnpei, Yap Island, leak detection. That was a fun project with Dr. K in Pohnpei, in Yap. And then we're sponsored climate workshops all over Pohnpei, climate camp, Majuro, all kinds of meetings on climate and climate change. It's been fun, but it kind of came to a stop. No more field trips and no more on-site visits. So we're just kind of here playing with our computers and doing things. But anyway, so hopefully it will get back to business as usual eventually. And here we go. Just a little quick thing I'll run through. My wife made me buy an iPhone, but I found a good use for it. I found I can take nice pictures. And just a week ago, we had a tornado on Guam. Here's a picture of it, a tornadic waterspout on the southeast side offshore of the island there. I posted that onto the bulletin board. Typical waterspouts in the islands are these pencil thin things here. I zoomed in on this tornado, and a friend of mine sent me this slide showing me the shear that's important for the tornado formation. Everything's leaning, the wind shear increases the height and everything leans over like that. And that's actually an important factor to develop a tornadic waterspout. Okay, so never a dull moment in the convective tropics. All kinds of rain shafts, rain everywhere. In Eden Skilling, famous for if it rains a lot in Pohnpei and we go on the ENSO conference call, he said, Eden, how you doing? How's Pohnpei? Plenty rain. So he almost always plenty rain. This month of October on Guam, plenty rain. We've had 25 inches and counting. So very wet month, the wettest month of the year so far. More pictures, a rainbow. My iPhone really does a good job. Now this one is a picture of a very concentrated rainstorm over Apra Harbor on Guam. It's only about a mile wide. Massive heavy rain, 4 inches an hour. And I show this slide because it has some implications for climate and climate change. These are the kind of things that give you the extremes, or not the only things, but it's an example. 4 inches in 1 hour. That's an extraordinary amount of rainfall. However, everywhere else on the island that day was zero. Just that one Erode Point thunderstorm had an incredible dump of rain. If one station happened to be under that, it would have had a phenomenal amount of extreme rainfall. So, but it's so small, and we're going to try to go back and measure these things or get a trend on these things. But when the thing is about the size of a city block, I claim they're almost immeasurable. You'll never get a handle on the trends. You won't measure them most of the time. So, and yet they're important to some extent. They cause the flash floods when they happen over the mountains on Guam. We've had deaths when something like this sat over the mountain. people are swimming downstream in the sun, and down comes the floodwaters and sweeps them out. So these are important entities here, where but how you get a handle on how to forecast them, how to measure them, how to even get their trends or climate change. What is climate change going to do to these? Who knows? Okay. All right. I used to go to Ponape, some fantastic projects, hiking up Not Allowed, get a guide, Misail, or on the south side, go up the Net side or the Kichi side, hike up the mountain, sometimes sleep overnight in a cave, and then put some rain gauges. We got, I put a rain gauge up there for 3 years. We got a lot of rain. There's me and a few years back, me in a stream. I get hot walking up the mountain. Very beautiful up there. The streams in the high mountain, the rainforest. When you get to the very top on the right-hand side here, it's a dwarf rainforest. The trees are very short, covered in moss, very soggy, but very, very beautiful, but almost always in the cloud or raining. But I don't care. I stay cool. If it's raining, all the better for me. I don't get too hot. So up there, we got good measurements on Ponape Island. There's just some maps of it. There's Not Allowed just about in the middle. Hike up there. It's almost 3,000 feet tall. There's a little map of it. There's a swamp. I put the rain gauge in the swamp, open area, so the trees weren't hiding it. We actually selected that for that reason. That Ponapean guides told us, we asked for some clearings, some clear areas. They go, oh, we know where there's some of those. And there's one right on the top of the mountain. It's like inside a crater, like Diamond Head. Not Allowed is an old volcanic crater with a caldera on top with a wall around. But the lake that used to be there is covered over with a mat of woven grass and reeds. You can jump on it and bounce up and down, but we were always afraid we'd break through, and who knows where we'd end up going or never get out. But it's a good spot for a rain gauge. We got a lot of good climate data, rain gauge. We verified that Not Allowed had a lot of rain, 323 inches in 1 year. That's the average over the 3 years. Where Palakir on the west side, 204, 177 on the east over by Namadal. On the south side, 181. The airport's one of the driest places, 155. Over here at the Madeleine Mayor's office, that was also quite dry. When you get right out along the coast, on the normal exposure of the wind, the trade winds come in and it's drier right along the east side, drier at the airport, wetter on the west side because the showers form and then drift off to the west. So Palakir is wetter, and Not Allowed took the prize, but we couldn't beat Hawaii. I thought we could. I wanted to. The Waialeale on Kauai, and Hawaii gets 400 inches a year. So we got close, but we couldn't beat them. So anyway, but that's still an awful lot of rain. There's a map. This map was computer generated by an algorithm developed by some people at Washington State University or Oregon State University called PRISM. It's just an algorithm, and they got it close to correct. They got the Not Allowed very close, 320, and I said 323. And the distribution dry on the east and north and running over, but they got Palakir too dry here, but that's okay. They got the right idea. And then, okay, now I'm going to state of the climate. As we stand now, of course, out here, all of Micronesia get subject to El Nino, La Nina, that huge swing of the climate that governs everything from the rainfall to the typhoons to the sea level to drought to all kinds of things. They're just absolutely dependent. And here we go. The little blue arrow here shows where we are currently. Let me see. Oh, this is an animated one. The last big El Nino was 2015 going into 2016. We had another minor El Nino in 2018, but big or minor, during El Nino, we get a lot more typhoons out here. So 2015, typhoons all over the place in Micronesia. 2018, some still in Micronesia, and Saipan, of course, got Yutu, and Mangkhut hit Rota. So the Mariana Islands were particularly vulnerable to the 2018. Now we've dropped into La Nina. Index-wise, it's not too spectacular, but it is nonetheless, it's La Nina. But the climate has responded strongly to La Nina. There's my little arrow. My animation is out of order. Okay. El Nino has certain things. Here's the typical progress of El Nino in Micronesia. Typhoons during the El Nino year, the typhoons go away in the year after El Nino. You get heavy rain at the onset into the El Nino, and then it dries out after. Sea level bottoms out. It reaches a minimum a foot lower than average in December and then rises again. You get wildfires in the dry season of the year after El Nino, and then coral bleaching, of course, can occur when it's very warm and the winds are light and the sun's out bright. This shows you one common thing. People like to say El Nino is one thing. Oh, El Nino means lots of typhoons. Or El Nino means drought. Said, no, it actually means all of this throughout the 18-month or so evolution of an El Nino. You get everything. You get heavy rain, then drought. You get lots of typhoons, then none. You get very low sea level, and then it shoots back up. So El Nino goes through the gamut of all of it at different timing. And each island's a little different. This is kind of a generic one, but it's every island, it's not exactly the same. It's the same elements and about the same order, but different time frame. Okay, here we are today. We're in La Nina. This is perfect. Guam is right near my arrow. Chuuk, Ponape out in the Mar. Here's Tarawa down here. So Marshall Islands out here. A couple of tropical cyclones, one northwest of Guam, which gave us a bunch of rain about 4 days ago as a depression. Another one moving into Vietnam. But you see the big clear, there's no clouds all the way along the equator. There's a vacuum, there's a void. That's La Nina. The easterly winds come through. Kapinga, Marangi, Tarawa itself, any islands along the equator, all the way back practically to the Philippines, have a hole punched in the cloud. You see the convergence zone to the north. And you can't get typhoons in this. You might say, oh, there's a bunch of clouds out here east of Ponape, all the way out south of Hawaii. But that's the ITCZ. The winds on the bottom are east and the winds on the top are west. And you cannot form a typhoon. I mean, not prohibited, but not likely. The typhoons only occur with a monsoon. The monsoon trough is over here in the Indian Ocean. The westerly winds come in. But instead of going out during El Nino, way out here making typhoons, they shoot on up this way. And the typhoons are all west and way north. So Micronesia has had hardly any typhoons this year. I'll go through that. Here's an example. It's 2021. The little blue box, I call it the El Nino box, where there's tons. Here's 2015. Look at all the typhoons in 2015, forming near Majuro, Kwajalein, Pohnpei, just over and over and over, many, many, many. And they all ran over Guam and Saipan. And then here, 2021, nothing, just nothing. A few weird ones way up high latitude. Very few typhoons. We're only at 6 on the year. Normally you get 18 in a year. They were only up to 6. So very, very low year. Excuse me. And as opposed to the El Nino, when you get just inundated with typhoons. This year, nothing. Okay, 2015, a little blip blow up there showing where they all were. And then a couple of comparison of years, 2015, 20. It's been La Nina like now. Well, 2016, 27, 2018 was more La Nina or El Nino like, and then it kicked back. Okay, now we're getting to, I hope somebody's going to have to tell me when to stop because I don't have a clock and I could talk for 10 hours. I'll hit a little bit about climate change. Climate change, of course, it's just become political. So it's just endless. As a meteorologist and a climatologist, it's almost tedious to just hear everything attributed to climate change, whether every thunderstorm, every typhoon, every tropical cyclone, every drought, every water spout, every lightning strike is climate change, climate change, climate change, climate change. And it kind of you get sick of it. So I've made this slide, climate change industry, the tail wagging the dog, the Pacific Islands taking climate action, and bam, 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 the tail's wagging the dog, shaking the dog loose. Okay, you must take action. This word has become, it's become one of those words that it's going to become meaningless sooner or later if they keep using it. To take action now for more floods, longer droughts, more typhoons, stronger typhoons, more extreme rains, more deadly hot days, more storm surges, species extinction, reef death, enhanced coastal erosion, increased storminess, climate refugees, stronger El Nino, more tornadoes, more lightning. I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. But here's something. I do a lot of work on sea level, showing the inundation, the actual history of inundation, of sea level, sea waves, storm surges, wave run up, all of it. I got papers on it. I've wrote reports, climate assessment. Here's a rainfall one, go through all of that. Sea level, since I think I ran out of time, I want to slip through here. So my sea level, I have a different view of almost anybody. You'll never get my view anywhere else. So I split the sea level here into 2 eras, one from 1948 to 1997. Nothing happened. It just was steady, or actually went down a little bit. After the 97 El Nino, the sea level jumped up almost a foot and stayed up. So there's a step function. And then since 98, it's stayed up, but not gone up anymore. It goes down. They put a trend line just to that piece, it goes down. So it's a whole different look at sea level, another point of view. And I also I put here, the sea level out here is entirely governed by the trade wind. The blue line here, the trade winds are weak, the sea level is low. The trade winds get strong, the sea level goes up. Almost 80% of the sea level change out here. Our high sea levels currently, and the behavior of the sea level over the history of it is 80% of it's forced by the trade winds and not anything to do with climate change. Okay, 20% is. I'm not saying it doesn't have anything to do with it. Sea level projections, everyone's familiar with sea level projections, where it's going. I got rainfall, data. We go out in the islands, Ponape rainfall. That's one of the things I work on. Here's a long-term trend of rainfall at Ponape. It's been going down until very recently. They had some very, very wet years, last couple, 2 or 3 years, has brought the rainfall, and when I make a long-term average here, back up again. So down, boink, up. So every island's different. This isn't the same everywhere. So you have to go through island by island by island and look at it very carefully. Okay, wet thresholds, Ponape Island. These things, rainfall, monthly rainfall, greater than 25 inches. You notice, again, that idea that it's been getting drier. There were a lot of months over 25 and then less. Here's months over 30 going down. It's not as many. Here's dry thresholds, rainfall less than 6 inches, dry months. So very complicated. Some trends and climate change projections are just thrown in on top of all of this. Okay, fire, wildfire, trends of heavy rain. Climate change. Okay, typhoons, of course. There's an El Nino with a twin typhoon pattern. Here's another one. Sotolar had a southern hemisphere twin. That year, the monsoon gets locked in along the equator, and you just endlessly repeat this twin cyclone pattern. And here's the El Nino distribution. The red dots here are all the typhoon origin locations during El Nino, and then during La Nina. You see La Nina shoves them all out of Micronesia off to the west towards Taiwan and the Philippines. Okay, typhoon distribution. One thing I do have involved in over the years is these international workshops on tropical cyclones, where we get shoved into conference rooms and try to determine what's going to happen to typhoons in a warmer world. Whether they're going to be more of them, fewer of them, more intense, the tracks are different. Who knows? We come up with these statements, this number 2, number 6, cyclone, rainfall and typhoons, the climate model. This number 8 was an important one because this came up early on and people didn't really want to believe this. Recent as in 2006, when this was done, climate model simulations project a decrease or no change in global tropical cyclone numbers in a warmer climate. So, whoa, what's this one? The group didn't like that one. Some people refused to bring that home to their constituents to say that there would be fewer typhoons and their location. In fact, one guy was very adamant. He goes, I will not make this statement in Hong Kong. Can you tell me if there's going to be fewer typhoons in Hong Kong? Maybe in the Pacific, maybe in the Indian Ocean, but how about Hong Kong? I said, well, no, you can't say for Hong Kong, but the basin gets, well, then I'm not going to say it. So anyway, so this gets contentious. That's why climate change, it's so political, so contentious. People almost came to blows over this statement. We fought it. People were angry and jumping up and down. And how are you going to word this so they can say this to people? Anyway, what's come along now? That was 2006. Now I got some good news. Now it's 2021. It's 15 years later. Well, the news still is, who in this audience has heard that in a warmer world, the number of typhoons in the Western North Pacific could be cut in half, 50% less. Some of the model simulations now are actually showing the Western Pacific leads the world in climate change project. I'm not saying this is going to be real, but in the projections, if they're going to be honest about them, they show a very steep reduction of tropical cyclones in the Western North Pacific. I always go on this, and this meme of action. You must take action now for climate. Well, if you're going to cut the typhoon number in half, what action is needed? I always joke about it. Oh, okay, I'm going to go sell my typhoon shutters for scrap. It's like, there's an action for you. But anyway, this idea, the U.S. government now is kind of, science is appended with a proviso or a sort of a rule that it has to be considered actionable. That's good science now. If it's actionable, I don't quite know what that means, but it said it. But I always put it this way: is not taking unnecessary action an action. So anyway, it gets that tedious. Actually, it seems that taking additional measures now is all that counts in this business. In other words, you get typhoons, you take actions, you put up storm shutters, you do whatever you do. But now climate change is coming. So now what action are you going to take for this? I said, well, there's going to be fewer of them. So what are you asking me to do? Anyway, this shows the tediousness of this. So notice, I'm not saying take no action to prepare for typhoons, but the good news is that climate change is not going to make things worse than they already are. You'll never hear that from anybody else except me. In fact, I just bought a home. Well, I went out and bought a 4 kW generator, not because of climate change, but because I also just bought a big deep freezer full of meat and other frozen food stuff. So if any typhoon comes along, I could be in trouble. Okay, I'm getting near the end here. Here's an actual graph of the number of occurrences of typhoons in the Westpac since 1958. Notice it's very noisy, down, up, down, but there's a long-term trend down, 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 down. And here we are, the blue one, 2021. We're very low. And if we don't get many more, we're going to be way down the bottom here. Is this climate change? I don't know. Is this a climate change projection? Yes. The climate change projection is for fewer typhoons in Westpac and dramatic loss. We've already lost half. See from the black line there, 6 to 11. We've lost almost half in this time series. So this has already happened. We've lost half already. And do we still get them? Yes, of course. But the threat of climate change is not an additional, like, oh my God, we're going to get inundated with typhoons and they're going to destroy everything. And I got to take an action of some sort. I would make my typhoon shutter stronger or whatever, or move to Alaska, who knows, whatever action is required. Okay, here's the actual projection from one group. Here's the top panel. The pink is the current distribution of more than 4 tropical cyclones per box, go through each box per year. In a warmer world, at the worst case scenario, the RCP 8.5, you lose half. This blue, which Saipan is in and Guam is just south, but everywhere in the Pacific is a light blue, which is a loss. It's a loss, a net loss of typhoons over the year. Just an extraordinary loss. So how can this happen? Well, look at this year. Here's how you do it. La Nina does it anyway, to some extent. Didn't used to, but now every time La Nina comes along, we just drop off the bottom. Okay, a 100-year projection, a loss of 50%. Anyway, I'm getting towards the end of my talk. Let me get out of there. Oh, that's a nice picture. That's it. This is all just other slides for grins. I don't really need to show them, but so I'm essentially done. Unless anyone has any questions, I'll go to put it back on the typhoon projection. There, that's a real model, a real projection. No one's probably seen it. No one hears about it. When you get climate workshop out here, they're always telling us we might get more or they might be less, but they're going to be stronger. So we're still going to get stronger ones. I'm like, well, if you get 50% loss, it doesn't matter how strong they are. Your actual experience risk of a stronger one will go down even if they do get stronger. So anyway, it's a lot more complicated than you're ever going to hear and probably never will because this doesn't sell. But anyway, I'm done.
Thank you very much for that presentation.
Okay.
If there's any question, feel free to put it on the chat. As at this time, sir, there's no question.
Okay, let me see. Oops.
Can I ask my question directly though?
Yes,
Kind,
sir,
is that you?
may.
Yes, this is Kind.
I recognize your voice.
Thank you, Dr. Lanter. I'm just wondering then, hearing all this, what then are we afraid of, or what then are we expecting as adverse effect of climate change, if there's going to be any?
It depends what you're asking. Typhoons, nada. Don't worry about it. I mean, you have to worry about it. We get typhoons anyway. We've been getting typhoons for thousands of years. Climate change will not impact them in Micronesia to make a difference in the risk.
Sea level rise?
The sea level rise is another matter. That's another variable. The sea is rising. Now, I showed a slide, the sea level, most of the change we're having now, even though it's high right now, it's very high because it's La Nina. It's not climate change yet. Most of the sea level, let's say our sea level right now, because of La Nina, it's about a foot above average. Of that entire foot above average, 10 inches of it is the trade wind forcing. 2 inches is climate change. Climate change has a very slow background increase. All the dramatic sea level changes so far is predominantly trade wind forcing. So that's one thing I would say you do need to worry about. The projections are for a sea level rise. The sea level is rising, more complicated around the world. We have an extraordinary rise, but our extraordinary rise is trade winds. But it's all the projections say continue right. They have different numbers, 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 feet. So it is something that I would say that sea level rise is something you do have to concern about and keep up with the projections and what's going to happen. Typhoons, I'm here to say that the good news is the projections are they're going to kill ours. We're going to get fewer. Doesn't mean we're not going to get any ever again, but we're going on here Guam now 22 years without a typhoon. So it's like, how long can this go? But anyway, yeah, for rainfall, probably the same idea, no change. Nothing too much to worry about. Sea level, yes, and typhoons, no. All the other things, waves, wave climates, everything else that they say is climate. I mean, they got climate change affecting everything from every cloud to every wave to the wind to, it's just dizzying. Like, well, what? But then you're required, well, take an action, prepare. I said, okay. Anyway, is that sea level rise? You're correct. Out of all the things in climate change, the sea level rise is the only one I don't disagree with. The fear mongering or whatever you want to call it. Be aware, sea level, it has risen over the history. I mean, the Westpac record's a little weird, but about 2, whatever the numbers are, it's slowly going up on the background, but the big changes up and down are El Nino, La Nina so far. So sooner or later, that, give it another 50 years, that slow rise will eventually be noticeable. It'll take over and then make the higher La Nina sea levels even higher. You'll start to notice that it's even higher than it used to be. Anyway, hopefully that helps out.
Thank you, Dr. Lander. If there's any more questions, feel free to put it on the chat. And other than that, we'll be sharing the resource form again in the chat, and feel free to submit that for any concern or topic you want to discuss. Now, I'll be giving the spotlight to Dr. John Jensen for the open discussion.
Thank you, Justine. We've reached the point here where we get a chance to share information with each other, and I'd like to encourage everybody to participate. We've got a wide range of expertise and perspectives. We've got nice representation across the FSM. It's too bad we aren't able to all go to lunch here now, but we've got, let's see, 53 people. I think that we peaked out at about 55. And so we've got a nice large group of people with a lot to contribute. So I'd like to invite people to share with us your ideas on what the most compelling needs are for water resources research, education, training, and outreach in the FSM. Starting with our colleagues in the FSM. And let me start it out with a question to stimulate a little bit of thought and response here. What would you recommend as being the most compelling need for education and training in FSM, and what level? You saw a presentation that included water kids from the elementary school level on up. At the other end of the spectrum, we've done professional training on things like wastewater treatment and leak detection and water distribution. So education and outreach is pretty broad, and we can use some help in identifying what you think is the most compelling need and the best opportunity. And we're looking for partners and people to work with. So if you can suggest contact people, that's all the better. And I'd like to get some discussion going now, but I'd like to also ask you to put this stuff in writing in the form that Glee provided, the electronic form, you can put it in the chat. We're recording this meeting, so what you say in the discussion is going to be put in a permanent record that we can come back to. So if somebody would like to start the discussion, I'd be grateful to have some comments. I'll look down the list and maybe call on some people if I can. If we don't get some conversation going right now.
Dr. Jensen.
Yeah, kind.
I put a question after one of the presentation on who will Weri collaborate with or work with in the state, because it will be very important to work with like the water resource people as well as EPA, especially in Chuuk, to ensure water quality, especially of those water that they sell to people for drinking, as well as the public water.
Okay, well, you know, I'm happy to have you help us identify those people. That's one of the reasons we've got the this meeting at least once a year, is to maintain contacts and establish and reestablish contacts. I don't know if let me put in a plug here for Mr. Kanto. I don't know how much the rest of the audience knows of Mr. Kanto, but he's one of our alums from the environmental science program, and one of our early alums too. Came into the program back shortly after I got here, and is one of the people who we're proud to have among our alums in the professional community around the region. So I don't want to embarrass him or put him on the spot here, but he's one of our team. Kind of, if you know, it's hard talking to the screen without being able to see each other's faces. But,
yeah. Well, I think at the end of the presentation, there's going to be like a group working together, and that's why I would like to identify people from the Chuuk Public Utility Corporation to be trained or to work with Weri, or Weri to work with them as well as EPA to ensure that the quality of the water they're distributing is good.
Absolutely, and please do. If somebody would like to follow up on what Kind just suggested and has some suggestions of their own about points of contact around your part of the community in the FSM, or somebody who's located here on Guam has some suggestions about who they're working with in the FSM that might be interested, please speak up. If it goes silent for too long, I'll start calling on my faculty here.
Thank you, Jensen. Can I speak on behalf of Bombay?
Absolutely.
I think I have EPA with us. I think Fermin is also with us. I think in terms of that just mentioned, I think I would volunteer PUC and EPA, but there's something that was highlighted in regards to building capacity. Just an information that somebody asked me to click on the video.
Yeah.
Sorry. There's a collaboration effort that we're working with the College of Micronesia, Ponte Camp, in terms of building capacity. This is between PUC and the college. We're trying to improve, especially the competency of our workforce. So this is basically for the water department, power, and then generation, and we're working with the college to include the administrative and finance. It's like an apprentice program, and it's go through U.S. Department of Labor. And I think this is something that probably, not probably, but is one of the component that where it can be a very key player in this. So I'll be sending out pretty soon. I'll be getting the proper emails and contacts from the college and the person that actually is responsible for this. So probably some of the things that we might have in line with, especially on the building capacity. I sent out an email during the presentation, and I remember I wasn't joining the meeting. I think a year ago I asked Bradley Henry to represent us, and he did mention on the water quality, and he was brought up in one of the presentation. And one of the questions that I asked was, I actually sent out a chat that if there is a possibility or any form of building capacity or online classes that can be conducted, especially strictly on water quality. That's one of the things that I just shoot out a while ago. But for that, I think if anybody from Bombay will, if anything that they can share, probably it's a good time. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence. That's a good point about online training in the COVID environment. We're all getting a lot of practice at online delivery, and maybe this year, I'm always struggling here, trying to figure out how best to cope with the COVID environment. And the fact that we can't fly down and meet with you guys is a big handicap. On the other hand, we've probably got some new opportunity in that our online resources are spun up and working at maximum capacity now. And maybe one of the things we can do to answer the question that I posed at the beginning, how can we adapt to the COVID era, is for this next round, focus on online delivery of training and education resources. So let me hand the mic back to whoever would like to follow up on that.
In order to cover this COVID condition, I have worked with local representatives. So he's Dr. Danko Taprosi. He's on Pohnpei Island, but now he's off island now. He is in Zimbabwe, but he's the director of IR here. So he will coordinate the local education program. He will develop teaching materials for kids and for youth. And then for water quality and for educators, Dr. Kim and I will prepare any kind of types. For example, it's online one, if possible, so you can go there face-to-face. We will provide face-to-face workshop and training course. But if you cannot, so we will prepare online course as you suggested.
Yeah, but this is Barry Kim. So in my presentation, I briefly introduced the future plan. So yeah, online training course is a good option, but right now we need to find out the level of the people on FSM. So what kind of contaminant they are familiar with analyzing, or what kind of contaminant they don't know about, and then so what contaminants they don't have knowledge. So we need to understand the level of each state condition. I think that will be the first step. So what I propose is once we collect contact information, so I will organize the people, and then so we can meet online 1 or 2 times, and then we can talk a little bit more in detail to what kind of training or what kind of analysis they have a problem right now.
That is an excellent idea.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe we can set up a working group, give it a name, and organize a little bit. You could set up an agenda of regular topics, monthly topics, or something like that. And if someone in FSM or each state in FSM even would sort of be the local coordinator to help put together an agenda for something like that. We've got the Weri Advisory Council, which is all everybody that's logged on here now. So maybe what we need to do is sort of continue some miniature advisory meetings or focused topics like that. Let me hand that back to Kind or Larson or someone else among our FSM colleagues to comment on that.
Hi, this is Kind again. I can get information from CPUC and EPA on the potential people that can participate in the training, those who are responsible for water quality, and send them to you guys so you can start the communication dialogue with them to find out where to start.
First of all, so can I ask you, so because water quality test case that tightly depends on equipment. So we need to figure out which equipment do you have now. Based on this, and we can figure out the training course based on equipment you already hold. Otherwise, even though we can provide any online course, if you don't have any equipment, it's impossible to apply. How do you think about that? Could you share the equipment list with us?
Well, my idea is, frankly speaking, so Weri cannot control all training people at each island. So I think best way is each island select a representative, and then they talk with Weri first. And then if, for example, Dr. Yeo mentioned, if some kids we need to train and we need to support, and then step by step we can develop that process. Because right now we can say, oh, we needed this, but but to prepare training, at least it will take at least 6 months to 1 year based on the survey. So I think as a first step, I recommend we just set up 1 or 2 people at each island first. I think that may be the first step.
I think thank you. I think that's going to be the first objective. I think that's perfect. I think it's in terms of Thailand, I think would be very appropriate to at least have a representative, at least one from the utility, and of course EPA. So I'll join in hand with the 2 representatives that will recommend one from the water provider and then the EPA. So in that way, because specifically when we go through the water quality analysis, will be 2 different things. One is for EPA, will be like the full concept of water quality parameters and analysis. But for the utilities, will be kind of general, will be really general for the utilities. So I think that's my recommendation. Let's try to work with the water provider and then the EPA. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence. And this is a really good outcome. I'm excited to see the direction. Okay, it's hard to steer the conversation in a group when you can't make eye contact with everybody and kind of read the body language and see who's ready to say something. I'm just looking at the tiles with everybody's name on it here. So let me pose another question. So I think we've got a real good idea going here in getting organized for some regular dialogue, and maybe that's one of the unexpected benefits of the COVID experience here, is that it's got us all competent in using this technology, and it'll be here with us to stay. So I think we've got a good forum for pursuing training ideas, and we can kind of do those as we go, and it'll just get better. On the other hand, with research, we're starting into the proposal cycle, and you have to gear up for research project, buy equipment, train up a student, and that sort of thing. So we have to kind of plan ahead on those. I'm looking for some suggestions from people as to what would be the most effective thing to pursue with the resources that we have for our USGS funded 104B in particular. And if anyone is got a handle on other potential funding sources, now's the time to think about that. Let me ask Maria Cottermeyer to comment on what she sees as the direction for the digital atlases. We've been, Dr. K started this with Donko about 15 years ago at least, and we started with an atlas of Guam, first Southern Guam and then Northern Guam, and then we've done Pohnpei, Chuuk, is what we're working on now, and the idea is to do all the islands, and I think we are looking at something that is going to be a permanent resource, a permanent investment. So this is first chance I've had to have a conversation with Maria about this. And by the way, Maria is one of our alumni too, who is one of our contributions to the region. So Maria.
Thank you, Dr. Jensen. Yeah, I think we are going on the right track. Like, I mean, like you said, we started the Guam one, must be over 10 years ago. I wasn't part of the first version, yeah, but it was a long time ago. So we already, it started with the Digital Atlas of Southern Guam, and then we added the Northern Guam, then we updated the Southern one, and just with technology and just more data available, there's always, you know, things to improve. And of course, in the process, we also learned a lot. Yeah, and then we, the last couple of years, we were working on the modules for the main atlas. And when you compare the Digital Atlas of Guam with the Digital Atlas of Micronesia, you can really see a progression, like just how much better the maps look now, all the capabilities you have with the interactive map. And the original one, the Guam one, still has some of these capabilities, but not to that level. And it just, you know, the new one has the Digital Atlas of Micronesia has a newer look to it. And so I think, yeah, what you see, like what already has been done in the last decade, like now we'll just keep going forward and add more islands and update the ones we've already done. And like I mentioned, like how the atlas has been used, it's such a satisfaction to see like people actually using it. You're not just working on the atlas, it's like, okay, it looks nice, but actually people using it for various projects. And yeah, so it's definitely been used. There's so many people, even though the Guam one has been online for so many years, and some of it is like all the data, there's still, yeah, I get emails all the time where then people say like, oh, this is, or see presentations where people use the data, and not like, you know, they don't always come back to us and say, hey, I'm using the data, but then you see it, it's like, oh my God, that's great. Like people are using it. So, and yeah, if anybody has any input of, you know, additional data that we didn't find, or, you know, just that you would find useful to include, like, please let us know. But yeah, I'm looking forward to adding more islands. And so far, I haven't seen any resource, any similar atlas from any other place really, because there's so much information out there, and there's so many different atlases, but usually it's just like one or the other. Like you have a lot of times the interactive maps where sometimes you can download the data, but it's more for people that are, you know, familiar with like the mapping, but you don't have really many places where you can download also the data already in nicely packaged maps. So even if you don't know how to use like GIS or some, you know, graphic program, you can just use the atlas and use the pre-designed maps. I think that's really a powerful part of this atlas, that it's so versatile.
Maria, and let me ask the rest of the audience, is there a need, or would it be useful to have some workshops on the use of the atlas, and have some sessions where Maria or Danko or one of you could give people a tour and sort of train them on how to use the atlas? Any comments on that?
Hi, Maria and Dr. Jensen.
All right, Neither.
Hi, nice to see you.
You too. I mean, hear you.
Yeah, go ahead, Snyder.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, no.
Hi, everyone. I'm Snyder Pisa. I work for FSM TechCamp. As Maria mentioned earlier, national government is looking into also funding the outer island part of the atlas that IREI helped us with for the main islands. As part of the project, we want, after we complete the entire atlas, where we would include the outer islands, we would be doing a state training on with the institute or offices that we see would benefit from the atlas in the FSM. So yeah, there's a plan to expand the usage of this atlas after it is completed. So in short, to answer Dr. Jensen's question on training, yes, there's a plan on doing that. Thank you. Thank you, Maria, for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Snyder. Yeah, one of the things that I've realized about websites and web-based information in general is that it takes a lot of maintenance to keep it running and keep it current. And you don't just put it out there and forget it, like you publish a book and once the book is distributed, you're done. With a website, it's a lifetime investment if you keep it going. And so we should think in those terms as we fund things. Have a sort of like, if you're investing in equipment, which is, I guess, what this is, you have a sort of an amortization schedule, what you're going to retire, what you're going to update, have a maintenance schedule for it too. So we should kind of solicit input from people on what the atlas, the set should look like as it evolves, because it will evolve over time. And if we don't actively maintain it, it will deteriorate over time. Just throw that out. Any other thoughts on the atlases? Okay, let's move on to other sorts of research. What I'd like to hear from our utilities people in particular, if there's, there's a big gap left when Dr. Rouse left us unexpectedly. And he had an active program going in things related to waste treatment, wastewater treatment, and sanitation in general. We've had programs in the past where we've done training on distribution and leak detection and that sort of thing, in which Weri has brought in consultants and people to work with us. And we have some of those people online right now who have come down and conducted that sort of training. And we can provide that even if we don't have the specialist on our faculty. But we also have or people on the faculty that have some skills that are not being utilized that could be. So like I say, I can't see people's faces, but if we've got some people from the FSM utilities or public agencies with interest in these topics, like to give you a chance to contribute.
Jason, I think Bradley should be with us. He's the one that really in charge for wastewater. But with the little experience that I used to work with Brad and Dr. Rouse, of course, there's a big gap. There's a very big gap on after he left us. So I think that's something that I will talk to Bradley specifically on some of the things that I had in planned, and we'll let you know. We'll email you and update you on that.
Great.
But at the moment, I felt that they were doing something. They were talking about some pilot projects on the wastewater treatment plant. So, but I'll get the full concept of that and then let you know.
Okay, thanks, Lindsay.
Yeah.
What about water provisioning and water treatment? Is there an interest in that, or?
Well, in terms of that, there's no ending of this. You know, technology and all of these things, and population increase, and all of this. So, for how many years I've been with the water sector. Definitely, this is something that is in our mission and vision to increase the resources that we have. I think one of the proposals that we developed, the issue that we're facing is the quality, and certainly it's has to do with the source that we're extracting the water from, especially the surface water. And that's something that I'm thinking to put in writing and email it to you, because in terms of, it's not only surface water, but groundwater also. And a couple of months ago, we received a new drill rig machine where we'll be expanding the groundwater as a supplement to our surface water. But also, as the head of the department, I'm trying to balance the use of these resources because of climate and environment, especially in the environment impact. In light to the experience that I got from Hawaii, there's a big impact on the groundwater versus the surface water, and plus to the environment. But Jensen, I'll do that. I'll put something in writing and email you, because that's something I haven't. I got tons of issue, and for everyone's information, the system is basically similar to the one in Guam. I've seen and I witnessed all the system in the whole Pacific Island. I've involved with so many institutions from the South Pacific. Plus, we're also part of the AWA team, and we learn a lot from that. And we have a big issue here in Bombay. I'm even though we're the capital city, but still, facing with all this issue is very challenging, and we're trying our best with the little things that we know and the experience that we have, and I mean, it plus our human resources, but we're struggling. I have an issue from the source down to the treatment plant. You know, the system was built back in the Japanese era. I wasn't born that time. And we were able to, and during the TTPI, the US came in and upgrade some of the system. I've recently we're experiencing the defect of our reservoir, especially the storage tank. We've patched one of our main tanks in the central system. So I think we did it like twice now. And those are some of the constraints that we have. And the only means is the funding. The funding resource is the problem that we're facing now. And we're farming for funding at the moment. We're giving out to all the international plus the national government and then the state government, trying to seek for funding. But on top of that, the main issue is the treatment plant. We're using a rapid sand filtration media, and we're trying to expand the system. And I'll be sharing you on some of the new development that we're working on. We're working with the Israel government. We're trying to put in a new treatment plant in the central system. Is some of our groundwater. It's lots of water, but it has. The problem is it contains a lot of iron. So I'll be sharing you. We're in the planning and engineering and planning already done. We will be having a last meeting, Zoom meeting tomorrow to confirm all the details of the plan, the engineering plan, and then they'll be start shipping the plan probably within after our meeting, maybe within 2 weeks after. But I will be sharing those as a lesson learned and maybe something for other states or island to learn from. But for that, I'll be putting in what are some of the issues that we have and share it with Weri. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Well, let me go island by island here and ask for some comments. Larenson has shared with us perspective from Pohnpei, and we've got kinds of perspective from Chuk. Have we got some people on from Yap or Kosrae that would like to comment on what's going on in their state that might be of interest for us to engage in or follow up on?
Hi, do you want us to say something, Dr. Jensen?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to have anybody say something.
Well, I guess with the proposed training and way forward, I would provide meet with the people from the utility and EPA and send the name and contact number of the people to work with Dr. Kim. And in regard to the digital atlas, I was trying to open it, and because I'm also at the Board of Education, and it is nice that they even have the location of the schools. It would be nice to share that with the members of the board to show them actually. I mean, I've never been to the other islands, and just to use the map, I believe it will help us see where they are and location of the schools. So there are many use to the digital maps, which I guess many people will need, but accessing is one thing, and especially now that there are more satellite dishes installed on the islands, it will be people will be able to access it from the different islands. So I hope there can be a training on that, on the use of that too, maybe to teachers or other people. But I'll look into that and let you guys know for future training opportunities. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Kind. Yeah, I'd like to follow up a little bit on the topic of outer islands. In fact, one of our GLEE staff here, Daniel Ragelmar, I met him back in 2005, or was it 2004, when I came to FICE with Don Rubenstein and my team. And I don't know if Daniel's still on here. I'll put him on the spot, but that was a really productive and insightful project that we did on FICE, looking at the water resource provisioning, starting with groundwater and then household rain catchments, and we came out of that with a technical report, which I think would still be useful and applicable to other islands and other outer islands. So if anybody's got some thoughts to share on work that we could or ought to be doing on the outer islands for any of the states, I'd be pleased to hear what you have to say. Kind, do you want to comment on that too?
Oh, well, for your information, the Department of Education, the State Department of Education is installing satellite dishes on all the outer islands. And so communication with them will be much easier. So in fact, if we want to collect data from them, these islands, and have things set up there, it will be much easier this time than before. Hopefully the satellite dishes work, and then connection is good.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, because I was thinking during the COVID's environment, we're just completely cut off otherwise from the outer islands. But there's a lot of experience that we captured in that FICE project that I'd still like to see extended to the other islands that might find that useful. And of course, as everybody knows, when you're talking about droughts, it's the outer islands that are the most vulnerable of just about any community out here. And so
it will be, Dr. Jensen, it will be interesting to find out the effects of there is a very high tide in Chuuk these days. So it will be very interesting to find out how they are affecting how this high tide is affecting the islands, the outer islands. I believe soon we'll be seeing pictures of them flooded over with salt water. And that would really affect the quality of their fresh water.
Okay, thanks for that, Kai. How about some thoughts on the topic of outreach then? What is there a need or interest in venues that would get out to the public schools or secondary schools, including water kids, certainly. But what about is there a need for education on water conservation or water quality management? I know a lot of households still have using roof catchments, and when Dr. Heitz was here, we did a lot of work on helping, or in fact, he put together a tool for sizing the roof catchments for households, and we had some education on household water harvesting. Is there any interest or need for something like that we could put out?
Dr. Jensen, there is always a need for training and learning, whatever opportunity there is. there is a need for it in Chuk, especially from the elementary school up. People use water indiscriminately without knowing, and they're always used to the idea of contaminant being parasites or organisms that they can just hit the water and then they're dead. But they're not aware that today even the remains of people coming from the state are embalmed and burial sites, how they can contaminate the water, and the other pollutants that like pesticides and other things. So there is always a need for that.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Okay, let me pull the Weri faculty here for comments or suggestions or questions that they might put out to the rest of the people in the audience. I'll just go from left to right on my screen here. Dr. Kim, do you have anything you'd like to add that you haven't been able to address yet?
Yeah, I have some questions regarding water quality analysis in FSM. So, do you follow a US EPA guideline, or do you have your own water quality standard?
As far as I know, the EPA staff are trained by the US EPA personnel, or some people sent by them. So I believe they're following their standard, the US EPA standard.
Okay. Then second question is, in case of Guam, even Guam doesn't have a capability of analyzing some regulated contaminants. So sometimes we send water sample off island. So how if FSM water agency handle for some water quality analysis? Because I'm pretty sure there should be some shipping issues.
They can only analyze what they can do. Honestly, that's why I mentioned that there are new things that are coming in and we are not aware of, or some of us are aware that they're contaminant, but for the general public and even the ability to test them, we don't have that ability. So those are the kind of things that we really need training on.
Then have you tried getting some funds to purchase analysis instrument? Because if you have some good instrument on your hand, then you can solve this issue. But I don't know whether there is a funding available for you guys.
Dr. Kim, that's why I would like to connect you with the right people so you guys can start that dialogue. Mm-hmm. And they provide you what you need, and so you know where they are standing at this time.
Okay.
Can I make a comment on that? I think the EPA have, the experience that I have with Pohnpei EPA, they have some of the parameters, some of the apparatus that they use for test. I think the water quality concept came because of the utilities. You know, we want to kind of mirror their tasks. So we as the water provider, we can able to identify, the pollutants right away and to make the remedial plans, as soon as possible. Those are the concept, but I think it's not that we're really limited in everything, but we do have some of the apparatus for testing. But in terms of, I think Pohnpei EPA should be really. They were with us this morning. We've been working together and to especially perform all the water quality. For the utility, of course, we're to answer some of in terms of the funding that you have, Doctor. We're working with, as I mentioned, that we're farming for funding, to get some of the water quality parameter test kit and all those, for us to perform some of the analysis. And of course, we're trying our best to get, find funding for that, in short.
Okay.
May I ask one thing? Because I am a surface water hydrologist. I'm doing many research work regarding surface water and rainfall runoff and flooding on Guam. So for my project for FSM, water education, as I make a presentation, two major contents. One is for kids, another is government agents, both personnel or educators. For second options, I am planning to prepare watershed rainfall runoff modeling work or based on QGIS, because QGIS is you need to make a payment. QGIS is free. I am planning to some course with QGIS and watershed management models and flooding estimation. Do you want this kind of training course?
Thank you. Let me recall again the question. You're talking about the watershed?
Yes.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I think for Bombay is, of course, that's one of the issues that we're facing now. We're trying to delineate the demographic line for the watershed area, and there's a dispute in there. But it's when we have the IWRM, it's a UN funding project that I was the focal point, and that was the one of the hotspot analysis that we identified to be one of our pilot project. And we found out there's a policy. I mean, there's a regulation by the state, approved by the state legislature back in 83, 84, I think, in terms of watershed. But the problem that we have now is there's no much regulator or somebody to regulate all those regulations. And to identify those are very important, because that's one of the issues that we're facing, especially when it rains, really heavy rains in Bombay. We experience a lot of sedimentation, flooding off from Nanalaut, where Mark Lander usually go and hike. And of course, that's a very important for us for Bombay.
Okay. Maria, can I ask one thing?
Yes.
Okay. Your website has many information about TEM and GIS information, right? So do you have soil types information or soil type shapefile for each island?
So what kind of shapefiles?
Soil types. Soil type.
Oh, soil type. Yes, there is, soil. I think it's for every island, but definitely for some of the islands we have soil types, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And they're from the old NRCS, sorry, from the soil surveys.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay.
My model, SWOT model can be used for watershed modeling work. This model requires TEM and soil types and land use information. So I believe I can use your output for each island watershed modeling work. So I make a presentation. I make some workshop or something, some education program for
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Mark, you want to make any suggestions or comments?
No, I think kind of the same things come up. Watershed, rainfall, sea level rise. The main climate concern usually throughout Micronesia, well, including the Marshall Islands, is sea level rise. And you could talk about anything else, typhoons, whatever, and the question will always get around to the sea level rise. So what we can do, or of course, it's part of my research to keep the data and analyze the sea level data, and then give the sort of an analysis of the projections, what the projections are. But the same variables come up: typhoons, typhoon distribution, rainfall, water quality. The only other thing is, I wonder, Kind might jump in this, but the training, the Dr. K, the hands-on, the leak detection, and sand filter on Koshrai, they actually, Leroy and company, helping in the design and acquisition of the sand and the construction of more actual physical, what you call it, on-site physical training of technology, leak detection equipment. Liren, we had an excellent leak detection visit with Sharam back in 2011, I think it was, on Pohnpei. We went around, and it was one of the most enlightening and great trips we took. I hiked up and down Manilad one of the days while Sharam and his crew were out doing some more leak detection, but it went so well, and I think it was very well received. Maybe Lirenson can say how much he enjoyed or needs something like that, but that's the kind of thing. There's just such an umbrella, and many things can be done. But I think with Sharam gone and Leroy away, and Joe Rouse not here, it'll be a little bit more difficult to spin back up these hands-on. Even Joe building the sediment traps in the sewer, what if you call waste treatment facilities, and hands-on real things, pitchforks and manure piles, and that kind of thing. We can't do it now, but should it come back, and where would they want to head with those real hands-on shovels in the ground, pitchforks in the manure, putting rain gauges on rocks and streams and that kind of thing? When it comes back, where would they think that effort should go? That's my question.
Can I, Mark?
Yeah.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Please.
Yeah, thank you. I actually chatted with Lander in regards to rain cage. I was thinking to send him an email, but I'll take the opportunity now. You know, Mark, that's something that at the utility we're trying to engage in, especially the specific concept of rain cage. Is really for our water, and I mean, not only for the water sector, but for the power, because of the idea of getting this what is to call that, hydro plant, the mini hydro plant.
Yep.
And also we're scaling up the concept of solar system. So those are the things that I was asked by our CEO if I can ask Weri the possibility of this.
Yeah, Weri used to be Water and Energy Research Institute, so we were directly involved in now even on Guam, we have a square mile solar panel farm now that we're going to get some experience in how that actually works. We've already had some problems with the sediment runoff from the site, but if you guys are going that way, making giant solar panel fields, all that kind of stuff, Weri is directly involved. We're involved in the grunt work, almost sending graduate students out, picking up rocks, setting up equipment and rain gauges and going through all of that. But it's a blast to do that. Sharam and company, but not the leak detection, was just an excellent example of a program like that. But you guys have to sort of direct the effort, whether it's solar panel farms or rain gauges for watershed management. It's just endless, but it needs your direction. And we can certainly spin up our resources to do those kind of things.
Yeah, thank you for that, Lander. I'll get the specific, especially on the power sector.
Yeah.
But as you understand, and the water department, it's something that I do remember we installed those at Nanville.
Yep.
And then we kind of correlate those things between the Nanville rain cage, first stone at the airport, and then the one at Nana Loud. And I do remember we put a turbidity meter that also give us the warning, especially when it rains, during every rains. But those are some of the ideas that we want to replicate and then bring it back to see if PUC can manage those and see how we're going to sustain those.
Yeah, that's good. That's the sustainability of those is a big question, because even the turbidity meter that Sharam had there in the Nanville Reservoir, boy, was that a bear to keep that clean and washing it. And, you know, it's easy enough to say, let's just put this rain gauge here, this turbidity meter, a level logger, but it really does need dedicated continual support. And I'm sure the technology now is improving, but I mean, it's not so labor intensive, it's prohibitive, but you really have to very carefully set them up and keep them operating. So anyway, but it's fun to do. I enjoy it, and students enjoy that kind of work. But anyway, I know you need it, and everyone needs that kind of thing. So anyway, it's overlooking how the maintenance is one thing that sometimes gets overlooked.
Thanks, Mark.
Yep.
I've got Dr. Nguyen came up on the chat here. Let me give him a chance to come up on the screen here and say something about the applications of geospatial analysis to water resource needs around FSM. Yuming, are you there?
Probably has his mute button.
Yeah.
He just wrote the chat, so he's got to be there.
Yeah, that's the hard part. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I don't want to leave. I don't want to overlook anybody or have them miss a chance to contribute. Okay, well, we're coming up on the top of the hour here at the end of the meeting. We've still got 36 of our, I think our high was about 55. So I'd like to thank everybody for their participation and contributions to the discussion today. We've had a good discussion, and I want to thank the presenters. Those were all fine presentations and very informative and contain just the right kind of information. And I want to thank our university leadership and the governor for their support. Dr. Enriquez had to drop off, but I always like to recognize her for the great support that she provides as provost to the research units in general and Weri in particular. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating and express my pleasure for working with you. This is I tell all my relatives and friends that I've got the world's best job and the best people to work with. It just keeps getting better. So please fill out those forms and give us or send us an email. But if you put something in writing that we can pass around and stick on the wall next to our computer, I still use a bulletin board. It really helps to have it written down. So again, this is a hard part of these kind of meetings. You don't get to chat with anybody in the hall or go to lunch. You just kind of hit the button and everybody disappears. So I'd like to again say thanks for coming and look forward to continuing the dialogue and working together. And it's really good to see some faces that I haven't seen for a while and to see our friends in the FSM in particular. So thanks everybody for coming, and we'll see you later in cyberspace, if not in the real world.